Hi guys, I'm Nina.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Ethan.
And we are Bloody Essentials. So, just a few little housekeeping things. Thank you so much to everybody that's already liked, followed, subscribed. It really means a lot and it helps the page out so much. And if you haven't checked out our Patreon yet, please do so. We've got some great incentives, bonuses, and little gifts to give you.
And we have some surprises coming up for our Patreons.
Yes. We have some very big surprises. We have a trivia event coming up, and anybody can really be a part of it if you are interested. But we are doing a special incentive. If you are a Patreon, you get first come, first serve to reserve your slot. Just, reach out to us if you want to be part of our trivia episode. That is coming up later this year, and more details to follow. We have some upcoming appearances at some horror conventions in the Midwest. We are going to be at Days of the Dead, Indianapolis, July 5th through the 7th. We're really excited about that. That's where Ethan and I met last year. So it's going to be fun.
Yes, it's going to be a reunion.
Yes, and 4th of July weekend. So we're going to party.
Yeah.
We will also be at the Ohio TerraCon August 16th and 17th. And shout out to Rick Paulton and the Whole Damn Enchilada podcast for inviting us. We're really excited to meet you guys in person because we've been friends over the internet for I don't know how long. So this will be fun.
Yes.
All right. And our special guest today is Rafael Flores Jr. from Camazotz Comics.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Hey.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing? Oh,
We're
thanks
really
for being here.
Love you. Yeah. So, Rafael, can you tell us what started your love for horror?
I think, I don't know about you guys, but I watched a lot of horror movies as a kid, and it wasn't something that my parents forbade or anything like that. We could watch them as a kid, and my dad would put on The Exorcist when I was like 5,
Yes.
And
so your family was fans of horror as well then?
Oh yeah. My cousins were huge horror movie fanatics. I remember watching like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like that. They would put that stuff on for us, like as kids, because they wanted to scare us or whatever. But we wanted that. Chucky was probably my favorite growing up.
Yeah.
The Bride of Chucky, that one was like, I've watched that one so many times.
It's my comfort movie.
We love The Bride of Chucky.
Yeah.
We actually did a podcast on it.
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre was another great one. I love
Evil
Dead. When I started getting into like filmmaking, because I used to do a little bit of filmmaking in college.
Wow.
Evil Dead was something I studied a lot. So
yeah,
I've been all over the place with movies in general, but horror movies have always been something that, even as a kid, like we just always loved.
You mentioned some of your favorites, but what are some of your other favorite horror movies, and what are some of your favorite like subgenres of horror?
I really like body horror. So I don't know. Have you heard of something? I forgot the Japanese title, but it's The Iron Man or something like that.
Tetsuo.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That like David Lynch, Eraserhead is like super creepy and eerie. Like it makes you want to throw up watching that movie. I love that kind of feeling of like I can't watch this. I'm gonna be sick. Like that is fun to me. I like slashers. Jason is a favorite of mine. Freddy vs. Jason was probably one of those movies I watched like a billion times.
Yeah. Freddy vs. Jason.
Let me think. What else? My favorite subgenre. Body horror is probably up there. I like The Fly. David Cronenberg, The Thing. Those tend to be my favorite horror movies. Like the ones that are the grossest. Even like things like Saw. Like a lot of people don't like like torture porn or whatever. But I'm like, dude, it's awesome. It actually has a story and like there's like actual emotion in these characters and stuff. So like I see past just the torture porn. To me, it's like it's a really good story, and like I like look forward to those Saw movies because like each one is like a twist and then a twist and then a twist. I love those movies. So
a lot of those movies they use that body horror to get an emotional response out of you, and there's more to it than just the body horror in the end too. So those are great movies.
What is your favorite thing about the horror community and being involved in the horror community?
Well, I've been involved in the horror community like myself, so I consider myself part of the horror community.
Absolutely.
I used to go to Frightmare here in Texas. I would go there every year with my sister. My sister is a huge horror. Like You should see her house. Her house is filled with like autographs from like Chucky, all the different directors. She got like Danny Trejo. She's got so many like what's his name? Candyman.
Tony
Just
Todd.
Tony
they go
Todd,
all the
yes.
time. Yeah, they go all the time. So they collect a bunch of autographs. They put they hang them up on their walls. So she was like a big influence. She's kind of like the person that I guess I would say like introduced me to horror movies and like kept me interested in them.
I love that.
She was a big horror movie fan too. And, you look up to your older sister or your older sibling, a lot. She was like she's like very gothic and stuff like that. So that kind of fed into my personality as well. And I don't know. I feel like the horror community is very loving. It's not like you can make a bad horror movie, people still love it. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
Yes.
like if you make a bad drama, people are gonna trash it till the end of time. But like you make a bad horror movie, some people will find it and they'll enjoy it and they'll love it at the end of time.
Yes.
Absolutely. Some of my favorite movies are the campy movies that everybody are like,
Yes.
that's horrible. And I'm like, you suck. That's great.
Exactly. I just feel like there's so much love in the horror community. And when you go to those conventions, you just feel it around you. That's something that that really changed my view of horror and like horror fans going to those conventions, because you feel the love. Nobody's like, there's no tribalism like there is with Marvel and DC. It's like everybody loves all the horror monsters, like from the Universal classic monsters to like today. It's like, it's amazing. I love it. Even like Japanese monsters and stuff like that. So.
Yes.
Definitely. Now, what are some of your interests that are kind of outside of horror?
I like all genres of filmmaking. I was a big trying to be a filmmaker in college. So I studied a lot of Japanese cinema, like samurai movies. I was big into westerns, like the spaghetti westerns. Dario Argento or something.
Dario Argento, love him.
Yes.
I know he's horror kind of. Other subgenre? Are you talking about subgenres of?
Just anything, any interest you have outside of horror.
So I do like comic books. I'm a big comic book fan, obviously, because I write them myself. I grew up reading comic books, same as a kid, as always as a kid. And I just grew up and never stopping reading them. I was never into novels. Like I would try to read a novel and I could never really get through it. It was too boring for me. But,
do you have a favorite comic book?
Probably Batman. Like in general, Batman is my favorite superhero. I've read so much Batman, and that's obvious because like my stories kind of has bats in it too. And so that was kind of the whole plan too. That was part of it.
Batman has the best villains.
He does. He has the best villains, and it is very horror-esque. The villains too. You got like Clayface, Poison Ivy. You got these like mad scientists turning into monsters. So there's a lot of that in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally. So, tell us a little bit about your comic book journey. I mean, how did this all start for you? Like, how did you start making comic books?
So, I actually made my first comic probably in high school, just doing like, a notebook paper and showing it to my friends. Because we all were kind of comic book fans. I was probably the biggest comic book fan though, because I took it very seriously. They were kind of like, we're doing it for fun, and I was like, but now we got to sell it. Now we got to like get it printed and stuff like that. You know what I mean? We got to go do the next steps. And they were just like, I'm done. After the first one, and I'm like, no, I got to learn more. I got to, I was very into it. I wanted to learn. I was taking animation in high school as well, and then when I went to college, my plan was to do animation, filmmaking. Kind of study them both, but then I kind of got burned out with college, and so I went a different route. I became a librarian, also because of my sister. My sister was a librarian too. She became one, and so I was like, "Oh, this looks like an easy job. It's like basically working at a Blockbuster with books." It's the best job in the world. It really is. You're surrounded by comics, movies. Like I do read nonfiction. Like that's something I can read. So I do read a lot of that. So like reading like books on writing. I've read almost everything I could get my hands on from the library, like basically since I started. It's basically since high school, like after high school, and I really started pushing myself to become a writer. I mean, I was part of the creative writing club at TCC, my community college over here. And then I started doing screenwriting. I have a long story.
No, please.
That's okay. Go ahead.
We love it.
It's like 10 years worth of stuff.
Wow.
But like I started doing screenwriting because I was in film school. But then I kind of dropped out and stuff. So I started doing screenwriting. I got into contact with a couple of screenwriters. I was helping them. I was ghostwriting for some people, and I was just helping people, like partnering up with people on scripts. Never anything got like made, so I can't say anything ever got made, but it did help me. Like I learned a lot just doing it a couple times. I learned a lot about like Save the Cat is a big book that everybody talks about in Hollywood writing circles. It's like the guide on writing basically in Hollywood. I think it's overused in my opinion.
Sure.
I think it makes every movie like The Matrix, but that's my opinion. But people love it. Hollywood loves it, and they talk about you got to use those buzzwords that are in it. So that's something I learned. You kind of have to learn to be savvy a little bit. You got to learn how to sell things, have good ideas.
Yeah.
So I don't ever really get started on writing a story until I have the idea. I know what the big idea is going to be.
Yeah.
So I, after doing a couple of failed screenwriting things, I was like, no, I just want to focus on comic books. That was my original love. That's what I originally wanted to do. I wanted to become a writer, was to write comic books. So I learned, you just kind of have to get started, really, and you got to do short. I wanted to get started and do like a big comic at first, but then I realized, no, you got to start smaller because it's expensive to make comic books.
Sure,
you got to pay a lot of people. You got to pay the artists, editors. If you hire an editor, you got to pay. There's multiple artists involved in a comic book.
Sure.
It's not just one artist. So yeah, there's a money in thing, and so you don't want to write anything. You don't want to get too big with your first idea. It's
sure.
You want to learn the ropes. That is what they say. You want to learn the ropes of making a comic book. So doing a short comic book is what I heard a lot of people tell me to do, and that's what I did. I did a 2-page short comic, and then I did a 5-page short comic, and then I submitted those to some competitions, and they became finalists. And one of them was called The Return of Camazotz, and it was basically like a 2-page. It was my first 2-page short, and it was basically just like it was just a thing I had. Like I wanted to. It was almost like a teaser for my own identity as a writer. Like it was kind of like putting my foot down. I was like, this is gonna be my first comic. This is gonna be my first anything. I wanted to be as badass, as cool as I could possibly make it. And it was just like a short. A guy goes into like a Mayan temple. He sees a statue of Camazotz. He goes out to reach after it, and then behind him, the actual Camazotz appears. And it's like this big bat reveal on the next page, and it's just 2 pages. It was a finalist, and that got the attention of Grimcore Studios, and Daniel Grimm, who's the editor and publisher over there. He reached out to me. He said he really liked the short. And I had actually been in contact with him before about doing some editing work on some of my other ideas I had. But he was like, no, I really like this idea. You need to focus on it and we'll turn it into a series. And, he'll publish it. And I got the ball rolling. And so it kind of started as this idea of just like the short. And then I had to evolve the idea. And so that's when I took in a lot more of the mythology. Yeah. The Camazotz and the Mayan hero twins in particular. There are 2 things in Mayan mythology that hasn't really been shown that much in media. And it's really interesting because they're really cool ideas that the Mayans came up with. And Camazotz is actually even older than Maya. So he's like a really ancient guy. And so I don't know, because I was a big Batman fan. I'm gothic. I like bats in general.
Absolutely.
So bats are adorable.
Yeah.
I really needed to run with this idea, so that's kind of how the journey started, and I guess that's how it ended right there. And then after that, I did the whole writing and everything. I can talk about that too.
Please.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Tell us about the process. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk about the process. It started, with an outline. It was like a one-page outline. I worked with the editor for that, hammering it down, getting it, nice and as good as it could be. We knew it couldn't be too long. Like it wasn't going to be a 12-issue series or an ongoing series. It had to be kind of short.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we kind of planned for like a 3-part series, and that's kind of what had happened. That's what it made. When I was writing it, we didn't really have a page limit involved, but we kind of had like maybe around like 40 to 60 pages. I think that was the goal. I kind of overshot that a little bit, but it came out okay. We still had a good enough amount for 3 issues, 3 a little bit bigger issues too. So writing it was really fun. It was basically kind of like writing a script, like a filmmaking script, except it's a little bit more involved because you got to really plan each individual page and each individual panel. You got to kind of explain it to the artist. You got to. It's basically like, panel 1. Character walk, or you don't really want to do too many actions in a panel because you only do really one.
Right.
So you want to be like, this is where they're at. This is what's going on. Maybe this character is talking. Maybe this character isn't. Even the close-ups, things in the background, you got to make sure to add because sometimes it's important. Sometimes later on you'll be writing something. You'll be like, oh, I forgot to add something important in the background.
Right.
And so. You always got to watch yourself. One trick I learned was the page reveal, the page turn. It's used a lot in horror comics, like Junji Ito talks a lot about it. Basically, each page turn, the reader doesn't know what's going to be on that other side of the page. So you want to kind of build up tension, build up anxiety, build up all that suspense. That's the word, suspense, and get them so that whenever they reach the end of the last page or the page that they're about to flip, you want to have them like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And so that when they flip, and then you want to blow their mind with whatever's on that next part. You want to kind of take a right turn instead of a left, or do you want to take a left turn instead of a right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to constantly keep your reader on their toes. You got to keep yourself on your toes. You know what I mean? I had an outline. To me, it was more like a map or a compass. When I wrote it, I was writing it very freely. I was giving myself the opportunity to kind of just, all right, I know this is north, and I know this is where the characters kind of need to go, but I'm going to write it very human. I'm going to just write them like they're characters, going on a journey, and very just if I miss a point, that's okay. I'll let it go, and just keep the characters going. Maybe I'll find something better. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely accomplished it because when I was reading it, I was like, oh God, I couldn't wait for the next page. I'm like, what's going to happen? Honestly, it was really, really good, man. I'm not a huge fan of comics. I mean, I like them, but I'm not a huge, you know what I mean? I'm not a huge fan, but I can't wait till the next ones come out because I want to read them. Seriously, I was like, oh my God, this would make such a good movie.
I'm like, what's next?
Exactly. I was like, what's next? I couldn't wait to get to the next page.
I know. When I was reading it, I was like, wait, that's the end? I want more.
Right?
Yeah. We're ready. We're ready.
I was like, no, to be continued. We want to know what's happening.
Yes. And that's exactly the goal. And that's what you want to do with comic books, especially. If you know it's going to be a series, you want to make the reader, you want to leave them like that. You want them wanting more. I'm glad I got that compliment a couple times from people who haven't been readers of comics that I was flipping through the page. It was nothing. And I wanted to read the next page, and when it was over, I was like, "No, I want more."
That was exactly it. That was exactly it.
It felt like I was eating popcorn and watching a scary movie, and waiting for the next big scare. I loved it.
Yeah,
it's perfect. I love those. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So now you obviously did the writing. Who did the illustrating and the I guess the drawing? I don't know the technical terms for it, but the artwork.
The main artist involved. Yeah, I'll tell you. The main artist that was involved was Azrael Aguiar. He's a Brazilian artist. Really cool dude. I met him whenever we were doing the first short comic So we kept the same artist.
That's awesome.
Yeah, his artwork improved like 10 times just by doing this comic, because like before this comic, you didn't really have that many. You did a lot of short comics, nothing really as long as the Return Camazotz. So, and when I was writing it, I wanted to write it in a way that was like, because I was a big fan of his art. He has a very cool like Hellboy, Mike
Yes.
Mignola kind of style.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and his stuff is so cool. It's very gothic. So I wanted to make a gothic looking book. I wanted it to be horror. I wanted it to be gothic looking. I'm a big like The Crow is one of my favorite movies. The Witch, not the Witchcraft. What's it called? What's that? What's Witchcraft? I forgot the movie Witchcraft. It's not Witchcraft. It's
Is it
The
The
Craft.
Witches?
The Craft.
The Craft, yes.
The Craft.
Yeah,
Witch?
there we go.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Love the
But,
Craft.
like,
Love the craft.
yeah, the gothic type movies, like I love that kind of stuff, and I wanted this to kind of have that feel, but also kind of have like an American Werewolf in London kind of vibe, because it was like almost like a werewolf story. The idea,
Oh,
the big
yeah.
idea of it is like
You were.
what like what would happen if this guy got infected by this Camazotz, and what if he was next, So
Yeah.
that was the big idea. And so American Werewolf in London, another big horror movie I love watching. I watched so
One of
many
my
times.
faves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I definitely got that when I read it.
Oh,
In
yeah.
the bad bit, I was like, this is so American Werewolf in London. Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
yeah. And I
Love
told the
that.
artist like all my inspirations basically. I gave him this big document of like, these are the movies that inspired this. These are the looks and the characters. Like The Crow was one of them. Like
Yeah.
the gothic looking dude hair.
I can
Yeah.
see it.
Like,
Yeah.
I gave him all the stuff that just to get the vibe of the story. And then he kind of ran with it. He started designing his own. He started with like the environments, the graveyard scene,
Mhm.
the hospital that they go to, then the Mayan ball court, and then he did the character designs, and then he did we can't tell what happens at the end, but he did more designs that we'll reveal later on, and like the Camazotz that appears, but he did so much work, man. I really gave him a lot of freedom this time around. The first time we did the short comic, I drew out the panels myself. Like I did like little thumbnails.
Uh-huh.
But this time I gave him free reign to design the characters how he wanted, to build the environment how he wanted. I told him, it's in Mexico. They're Mexican characters.
Sure.
I told him what's up. But he took it and he ran with it. He made it really, really cool. A lot of the things he came up with, like the way he designed the panels, they were either exactly what I envisioned, or they were like most of the time they were better than what I thought.
Wow.
A lot of the times I would be like, the ball hits the thing and then it knocks over the statue and the statue breaks. Maybe that's like 3 panels, but he makes it look so beautiful. You know what I mean? He adds so much detail to everything that I'm like, wow, like I'm thankful for him. Azrael, he's an amazing artist. He did the art and he did the colors. This was his first time coloring a book.
Wow.
So he got to do that for the first time.
Did a great job.
He did. He did an amazing job. Suspirios was a big influence for his coloring. So like that's something that he came up with.
Yeah, that's Jamie's favorite movie.
Yeah. And like I think
the
next issue and then following issues are even have more of that kind of feel. So that's something to look forward to. But yeah, the next oh man, we're in the middle of making the second issue right now, so I can't talk too much about it, but it's coming out really beautiful, and really scary too.
I know you can't tell us too much, but can you tell us when it'll be out?
Yeah.
Because I want to know. So I mean, seriously, I want to know.
I don't know if I can reveal it. I don't think I can reveal it.
Okay.
Yeah, I probably can't.
No worries.
No problem.
We'll try to do it
during email. You'll let us know, right?
We'll try to release it during the spooky season. We'll say that.
All right.
Okay.
Excellent.
Well, let us know when it's about to come out, and we'll have you on, and we'll promote it together. How does that
Absolutely.
There we go.
Man. I love to come back on.
Yeah.
And also, let me shout out the editor involved, Daniel Grimm. He's the publisher. He helped me out through the whole process. This was my first comic book too, like a real comic book. And I did a couple shorts, but this was like my first series. So he really helped me out a lot. Also, the letterer Mason, He's a letterer in Austin. He also has a band. I wish I could remember the band, but it's a metal band. Really cool guy. He did the letters, and we also have a guy named Vince who did the logo. So yeah, that was the creative team, and it was mostly just me and Azrael, working together. We're the core. But yeah, everybody involved, they helped out. Mason was a big help too.
Awesome. For those that are like trying to make their own comics or something, like maybe they aren't as familiar with the collaboration process as you are now. How does that work between you and your illustrator? Like, say they send you what they've been working on, and like you're not really like, that's not really the vibe you're wanting or something like that. Like, can you just send it back and be like, this isn't really what I'm feeling? Like, can you do a few tweaks here or there? Like, was there any like situations that came up like that for you guys?
Well, for the Return of Camazotz, there was like maybe one instance. There was one panel where the artist drew something, and we were kind of like, no, it really needs to be this thing. He wanted to kind of make it more realistic to the setting that he was basing it on, and I was like, no, it actually kind of it needs to be this for the story to work. So that was just one thing. But with Azrael, it's really been very easy with him. He's a really great artist. That was like one time out of, all these pages that I've done. I've worked with other different artists where I've had to kind of break it to them, kind of be like, this is not what I'm looking for in terms of style or in terms of, in terms of everything really. I mean, whenever you're getting started out, you're going to kind of run into those kind of issues until you find an artist that you just gel with. I mean, it's kind of like making a band in a lot of ways. You kind of have to do a little auditioning sometimes, and until you find the right person.
Well, I think your auditioning is over, because I think everybody who had anything to do with this, you need to keep them, because it really was fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I was wondering, could you tell us a little bit about the inspiration for our two main characters in the story? Like, where did they kind of come from for you? Because I love these guys already.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, they kind of really based on me, honestly. They're kind of like a version of myself. Also, the artist kind of drew him in the style of me and him, like combined. So that I know it was very personal, right? And so this story is very personal. Like the problem that the brothers are dealing with, the emotional issue, that's just me writing something that helps me heal from my own trauma of stuff like that happening. So like that's kind of where the emotional core of the characters come from. Just myself, my own angst that I used to have as a younger person, like my own gothic style vibe. My own like duality too, because like that was kind of important to kind of make them different in a lot of ways, very like opposite almost.
Totally.
Like, so I have one character kind of, this is really me, like turned up, and this is who I want to be. If I could really, do it, this is the person I strive to be. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or the person I want to strive to be.
Well, you did a great job, because I could definitely. I mean, I can't speak for the ladies here, but literally the first couple of pages, and I don't want to reveal everything that happened. I really felt the emotion in that. I was like, like literally, I was like, "You're a grown man. Why are you feeling emotion?" But I like literally had a tear in my eye. I was like, "Oh my God!" I mean, it was great.
There were a lot of moments with the brothers that I really felt a strong connection to what they were going through, and I haven't lost a parent, but like that was a really emotional like exchange between them, and I really felt it. So like you did a great job.
You did.
Thank you. And they're kind of based off Mayan mythology in a lot of ways. The Mayan hero twins, their original names were Hunapu and Xbalanque or Xbalanque. And so when I was writing the story, I wanted to give them names, but they were kind of similar. So Victor is based off, I named him after Victor Frankenstein. And the other guy, Vincent, I named him for Vincent Price.
Price?
And I don't know. Like I don't have a brother myself. I just have two sisters. I have an older and a younger sister. So I've always wanted, and maybe I didn't. There's been times where I wanted a brother, or what would it be
Sure.
like if I had a brother? So
Right.
this kind of is like my experiment with that. And I don't know, like I know how to be a brother, you know, because I have two sisters. So being brotherly is something that I just know how to do and write well, I think. I don't know, yeah, and I just wrote it very true to myself, you know, because that's what I hear, you know, when writing. You just got to write the truth. You got to bleed onto the page. That's what Todd Serling, Rod Serling would say.
Yeah.
You got to bleed onto the page and just pour your heart out. So.
And we can tell that you did. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you, why did, like, I know you said that you like Batman and everything, but like, why did you specifically choose Mayan, you know, can't really think of the word, but like Mayan stories as your inspiration for your comic?
Well, I mean, I'm Mexican American myself, so I study this stuff on my own, just because you know, it's part of my heritage, and so
Sure.
I like to learn about it because it's really interesting once you really dive into it.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff isn't just face value, like the gods themselves. They're not like the Greek gods where or maybe they are kind of like the Greek gods, because they do stand for multiple things. They're not just some deity that fights people or something. You know what I mean? A lot of times they stand for something very more spiritual, and they have a very spiritual meaning. So I like studying that kind of stuff. I like trying to learn about the religion, and that's like Mayan and Aztec mythology. And Camazotz is a part of it. There was a couple of books I read. There was one in particular. It's called Feathered Serpent, Dark Heart of Sky by David Bolts. And he's kind of like a anthropologist, where he writes. He took the Mayan and the Aztec codexes, and he kind of translated them into English and put them in a book form that was very like, in the beginning, this is what happened, and then all the way to the basically when the Spanish arrived. And it tells all the ages that they went through. I think there's like 5 or 6, depending on who you ask. And you know, Camazotz had a part in destroying one of the ages. So because he's kind of like this, the gods created him as a tool of destruction, you know.
Wow.
And so I took that core, just that idea of Camazotz, and I just took the Mayan hero twins that were, because they run into Camazotz in one of the stories in that book, where Camazotz comes and he swipes down and he takes off the head of one of the brothers, and then they had to go into the underworld and they had to fight the lords of the underworld to you know, to basically to kill them. They had to kill the lords of the underworld so they can survive, you know. Because they have their own like lineage. It's kind of like an Avatar thing where the hero twins' father and uncle were also like this thing that had to fight the lords of the underworld. So it's kind of like this almost curse, which is what I took it as, kind of ran with it as, like, this is like a curse to these people. Like, they're cursed to go through this challenge of facing Camazotz, going to the underworld. Like, they didn't ask for this. This is something that was thrusted upon them, like through birth or something. And
oh my God, I need book 2. Come on.
And like, I don't know, I like that idea. I like that philosophy of like, we don't get to pick what happens to us. We don't get to choose who we become and who we are. Like,
right,
all that is chosen for us. Like, and I know, like, that's a kind of, some people think that's a negative way to look at it, but some people might think the opposite. You know what I mean? Some people take a lot of comfort in that. So I don't know. I like that kind of idea. And forcing a character to go through something that they don't want to go through, that's good storytelling. You know what I mean? That's what you want to do. You want to put those characters in that situation. I forgot what the question was.
You answered it.
Okay. And I mean, now that you've written a comic book and you're still working on more, what do you think are some of like the essential kind of ingredients or elements for a good like horror story or a good horror comic?
I think any story, it has to come from a place of truth to yourself.
Yes.
After making one comic, you'll learn like the next time you make a comic, it's better be important, because making comics is expensive. You know what I mean? Like, so if you're gonna make a comic, make it important, make it mean something to you, make it like a I don't know, like a signal you're putting out into the world. Like, I want everybody to hear this, you know, and I don't care who hears it. I don't care if my mother hears it. I don't care, you know, my grandma hears it. Like, this is this is just truth. So this is my truth. And it's gotta mean something to you personally if you're writing it. You can't just, well, you gotta have a big idea. You gotta have a good idea. I'm also good into marketing, like a little bit.
Yeah.
You need to have a hook. You need to have a like something that you just say this and everybody loses their mind. They want to read it. So this was a man will turn into a bat, or a bat. Have you heard of the Camazotz? Like, no. Have you heard of the like? Have you heard of the twins? They're gonna face Camazotz, and this is like horror story. No, yeah, you don't know anything about this. Well, now let me give you this horror book, and now you'll learn a little bit about the mythology. You'll also get a really good horror story while you're doing it, and then, you know, like, you won't even realize you're learning.
Totally, because you're having so much fun and you're engaged, you know. But I did learn a little something here.
Right.
Same. Yeah.
Theme is important. Like, you want to have a theme, at least something, a message. It doesn't have to be like preachy, you know. You don't want to be preachy about it, but you just want to have something that's like a compass. That's like, okay, this is why I'm making the story, because of this idea, or this guiding light, or whatever. The characters don't even have to believe it, or, you know what I mean? Like, because you don't want them to believe it. You want them to kind of discover it. They gotta kind of figure it out on their own, or maybe they don't discover it. Maybe because the theme is just what life is. You know what I mean? The theme could be just like, this is how life is, and that's it. And there's nothing you can do about it. Like, that could be a theme in its own. So, I think. Yeah, I'm sorry. Is that good?
Don't apologize.
No, don't be sorry. You're great.
That's all good. Yeah.
I have to say,
miles an hour, dude.
No, that's what the podcast is for.
That's what we want.
Yeah. I will say, I know Jamie does, and I know I do as well. I like dark endings. So, like, even if the character doesn't, you know, fully find what they're looking for, that's okay too.
Absolutely.
Kind of like that. Yeah.
I'm gonna get a lot of shit for this, but the ending of The Mist, where they shoot themselves like before it gets resolved, I'm like, I love that ending. No one else does, but like, I like that. I like that kick in the gut feeling, like, at the end of a story.
After you put your reader through all that, you got to kick him one more time in the gut. You got to leave him.
Yes.
That's right.
If it was a happy movie, I would make it a happy movie. It's not. It's a horror movie.
It's not realistic. Happy endings are not realistic. This is life, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Bring on the pain.
We don't always have happy endings. Sometimes the ending sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
And like, what would you say is more real to life? That, or what Hollywood thinks like these dramas or like these movies are? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Or we can talk a lot about real life than a lot of things. So.
Totally agree.
I think you learn a lot more through the pain and the bad things than you do all the happy, you know, butterflies in your stomach kind of feelings. Like, that's not life. So. Right.
Now, do you plan on doing any cons or anything so people can come and see you? And
yeah, I'm going to be doing one. Well, actually, I haven't been accepted yet, so I don't know if I'm going to be doing any. But I am planning on doing some.
Excellent. I definitely think you should. You need to get it out there.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, I'm waiting on getting some comic books printed and like so I can start selling them. I have a feeling they're going to sell out pretty well. So I'm like, how much do I need to buy? That's one thing I'm kind of learning I'm still learning how to do conventions. I've never done one, so that's going to be its own experience. Trying to figure out that what is going to sell more. Should I get stickers? Should I get should I get posters? Which posters should I make? Which stickers should I make? You know, that kind of thing.
I will say, honestly, with cons, people love like little stuff like stickers and pins and, you know, things like that. So the more the merrier, like, bring all the stuff, you know, like, and it's a good way to get your word out. Just like have little stickers that have Return of Camazotz on it, and, you know, give those away to people and just get the word out that way. And then maybe they'll be like, oh, look at this. Let's go back to this booth today and grab see what he's about, you know? Like, I can't tell you how many cons I've been to where they've given me a sticker and I'll go back the next day or the last day and grab something of theirs.
100%.
Yeah, like, and even if they don't, like, they'll have it when they get home and they'll look at it and maybe they'll go online to your Grimcore's website or whatever and buy stuff that way too. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
the big thing is like selling yourself. And if you're not good at that, that's the struggle, but you are clearly good at it. So.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm trying.
Yeah. So I highly recommend just, stocking up on everything that you can and just being ready for that. Cause that's a great thing to,
Yeah.
have
I
ready.
want to do some horror conventions too. Like
Definitely.
Texas Frightmare over here in Dallas.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a dream convention to do sometime in this year or next year.
We want you to do some conventions, especially ones that we're at, so we can have a drink and talk about this.
Where do y'all live?
I live in Chicago.
Ethan and I are based out of Chicago. Jamie's based out of Arizona right now. She's trying to move to Chicago. Yeah.
I'm working on it, but I'm in Tucson right now.
Yeah. But Flashback Weekend is really big up here. That's in August.
C2E2, right? I just had that one, right?
We just had
we did.
C2E2. Yeah, that's a huge one. That's all genres. And then they have Days of the Dead. And I think we only have the 2 horror conventions, right, Ethan? We also have
Yeah.
And but there's all kinds of horror conventions in the Midwest. Texas Frightmare is huge, as you know.
Yeah.
I've met the owners of that con. They are so down to earth, so great. I can't remember their name has escaped me right now, but I've met them. Their shop is just outside of Dallas. They own a horror shop.
Wow.
So I actually stopped in there. I didn't realize that they were the owners of the Texas Frightmare Con, and we got to talking about their convention a few years back. So they're really sweet.
And we have not yet been to Texas Frightmare, but we all want to go.
Yeah.
So
not that it's not happening this year. But,
yeah, we won't be. I know we won't be there this year, but we are going to go. So,
oh yeah, that's definitely on the bucket list. That's
hopefully that year you'll be there so we can have a drink.
Seriously.
Yes, I'll be there.
Yeah, even if you can't come to, sell your comics, still come and we'll hang out or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
My sister, so I have a lot to talk about. I feel like y'all would love my sister. She's
yes.
just to describe her, I'm like, yeah, we would be friends.
Absolutely. Yeah. So now if somebody wants to buy your comic, where can they go? Is there a website that they can go to? Yeah. And we'll have all of this in our
description
in our description. So, but tell us now where we can go.
So if you want to buy the Return of Camazotz, you can buy it off of Grimcore Studios store. Just go to grimcorestudio.com. You'll find it there. You can also get, if you don't want a physical, you can get a digital copy through Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and Global Comics. And if you want to keep in contact with me or the publisher, you can follow me at Camazotz Comics, and you can follow the publisher at Grimcore Studios or Grimcore Horror, whichever one. It's on Twitter, X, Instagram, all of them.
Excellent. and on behalf of Bloody Essentials, if you like horror comics, definitely go check this out. It's excellent. If you don't like horror comics, just give it a try.
Check it out.
I think you will change your mind, because I was not a fan of comics. I just was not. And I read this and I was like, I cannot wait for part 2.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It really is.
Thank you guys.
I want a shirt. I want a shirt with the art on it because it's so good and it's so cool.
We don't have any yet. We will make some. We will make some.
You need to make some.
I want one.
You need to make them in big guy sizes so I can order one. So
we will.
All inclusive sizes for sure.
Absolutely.
And I was wondering too, just because a lot of people who are listening to the show, they have dreams kind of like yours too. Like, what advice or what do you have to say to like folks who are interested in like making their kind of horror dreams come true like you did?
Well, don't give up on your dreams. That's one thing. Whatever it is, make it happen. It does take a lot of work. Like it wasn't an overnight success story. I didn't decide I wanted to become a comic book writer and then the next month or the next year, even the next day, I didn't have the Return of Camazotz. It took years it took lots of years of just studying how to make comic books, studying, just failing a lot of times, with artists that I didn't work with, failing with projects that just didn't go anywhere. And then eventually keep going, because like you can't stop. You just can't stop. You just gotta keep pushing through it. You're gonna come to a point where you're just like, do I really want to do this? Like you're gonna look yourself in the mirror, like, do I really want to do this? And if the answer is yes, I do, like I do want to do this, and then you'll just keep going. You just keep working towards it. Everything, you gotta support yourself. I work at a library, so that's how I support myself, so that I can pursue my dream of writing comic books. If I didn't have that job, I probably wouldn't be living in an apartment, and probably wouldn't even have a comic book out, because I would have had who could have paid for that? It's just like making a movie,
right?
You need to have people, you need to have money to make a movie. So don't quit your day job, but also keep your dream alive. You gotta find a job where you can basically work on your dream while you're working.
Absolutely.
We understand that.
Totally.
And I do want to bring up one thing, because I just wanted to give y'all something. We're working on we have a screenplay for the Return of Camazotz movie. We're working on that right now. I can say it because we talked about it, but that's something to look forward to. We have a lot of hopes for the Return to Camazotz as like a franchise, as like going forward. It's got a lot of potential, I think. So
absolutely.
Oh my god, I have to see
that's so exciting.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love the comic. The movie, I would be like, I'm first in line.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm glad that I just had to work on the scripts. I don't have to be a director. So that's something that I'm glad. I'm like, because when I was making films in film school, it was like so much stress, trying to get people, to come together to work on a movie. So the fact that I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna write it. Whatever happens to it, happens to it. So
there you go.
Directing is a lot. Yeah.
I so want the second comic book right now.
Seriously.
I mean, I know I can't have it right now, but I want it right now.
Seriously.
But you have our email, so make sure you tell us when it's coming out.
Yeah.
I will.
Definitely. Yes. And we will, put all of your pages, we'll include your artist pages if we can in the description in Grimcore Studios as well. That way, if anybody wants to follow them and keep updated on what you guys are doing, they can do it that way. And yeah, like we absolutely love this comic, and we cannot wait for even if it's not Camazotz, we cannot wait for more to see what you are doing. So we're really excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you guys. It was a lot of fun talking to this.
It was so much fun.
I can keep going.
It was great. You're gonna have to come back.
I know. We need you back.
We'll have to have you back just to talk about a horror movie or something sometime. That would be fun.
Yes. I would be happy to come on, because I can talk about movies for hours, because I'll critique the hell out of it, and I'll be like, this is what the writer was thinking, and like, this is why they did this.
Oh, we need you on. We need you on for a movie. Yeah. Maybe like send us some of your like favorites that you'd love to really dissect, and we'll pick one of those.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Or even like your least favorite, and we'll dissect them together and just
we could do that too. The one you hate the most, and we could go through that too.
There's not a lot of horror movies I hate.
I know, same.
I know.
It's true.
It's hard to hate them. Yeah.
There are a couple though.
There are a few.
We'll get to that in another episode, but there are a couple.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rafael, for coming on. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your weekend to spend time with us and just talk horror. Again, guys, thank you so much for following Bloody Essentials and keeping up with what we are doing. If you haven't subscribed, liked, followed, please do so. Also, please check out our Patreon. The links are in the description below, so you can take a look whenever you're free. I'm Nina.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Ethan.
And we are Bloody Essentials. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Bye-bye.